Honorable Chairman, Mr. Kuntia and other panelists. Uh, I represent a private company by the name Shant. We have been education and publishing for last 7 decades. And for almost last 5 years, we have gone into technology. Professionally on my front, I'm a mechanical engineer, worked with a lot of companies, including Tata's, builders, and then moved into education and have worked for about 30 years. 2-3 things which always kind of were very personal to me, and I thought I would share those experiences with you. My first job as a mechanical engineer, I was moved to Tata's plant in Pune, and as a part of orientation, I was sent to my workplace. And when I was given the machine what I was supposed to handle, very hesitantly, very ignorantly, I didn't know whom to ask. Then finally I asked a worker who was standing next to me that, what is this machine? And he said it's a lathe machine. And lathe is supposed to be basic of any engineering equipment which you find in a lab. And my concept of a lathe machine was always what I had seen in a book, but I never thought this would be the size and this would happen. And it was not true only for me, but for everyone who was in my batch. He had no experience, he had no understanding. And today, after 30 years, I can say that technology is there to make all this happen. Technology is there in terms of content to make it happen in a way where anyone sitting, even in a Kolkata municipal school, can have access to quality content. I don't know how many of you went through a news item today morning that out of 90,000 students who appeared for engineering first year exam in Andhra, only 10% have passed. That's another thing which I wanted to share. Recently, Honorable Minister for MHRD, Mr. Kapil Sibal, he launched CBSE International Curriculum in Dubai. I was present. And a lot of people asked him that you are doing so many things in India, but what is your mission? What do you want to do? And he made a very simple statement. He said there are about 100,000, in a developed country, among 100,000 people, something like 4,500 people are involved in research and engineering. And in India it is in hundreds. So as far as I'm concerned, I want to bring to that level where at least we reach a standard where about 4,000, 5,000 people out of every 100,000 people are involved in research. And that will bring India to a next level. Third thing, we are talking about 10 to 11% economic growth every year. What kind of challenges it would bring in our education system? I was not knowing very much about, I would say, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan. But when I went through the details, it is something which cannot be debated. It is something which cannot be disputed. You are talking about bringing gross enrollment ratios to 75%. You are talking about universalization of secondary education by 2020. You are talking about training teachers. You are talking about removing disparities. So everything is there. But my biggest question, which remains unanswered, we talk about lesson plans, we talk about learning objects, we talk about teacher training. These are nothing new. They are not new in Indian context also. It is something which every time we go ahead and say, no, we need to train our teachers. Yes, it is a continuous exercise which we need to do. And ICT has empowered the governments, the private practitioners, the schools. I'll just share an example with you. We did one of the largest ICT implementation in a private school in Dubai, having 8,000 children, 220 interactive classrooms. We trained about 700 teachers. We did a pilot project with Kendriya Vidyalayas in remote locations, and we did a project with government of Uttarakhand. All these projects, there was one very, very, I would say, important learning. The child today, the student today is ready for learning. He is looking for a computer ICT intervention for learning because it brings engagement, it brings, I would say, kind of innovation, and the child is interested, he wants to do better. Companies like NIT have done much work in terms of hole in wall and things like that. So these are things which are not to be proved again and again in Indian context. The teacher as on today, teacher is not a hurdle. Only thing is that what commitment as a management, as a policy maker, as a government, you make to take care of that teacher and handhold that teacher to bring him up. Another very important observation what we had, that when you go to a teacher and ask him to create a content, what we need to understand that teacher is not there, it is not supposed to create the content. If you are putting a teacher as on today to create ICT-based content applications, you are not letting teacher focus on the job what they are doing. There are many others who are doing that job. Now, if we have this Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan at a scale, at a mission scale, and that is what the government wants to do, that is most important for this country. But again, what are the issues? Most of these things cannot be done without a public-private partnership. And when you talk about public-private partnership, I would share some examples with you. You want to use computer-aided learning content in schools. What is the definition of the tenders which you get? You should have supplied hardware worth so many crores to schools. You should have trained so many teachers. So what has happened is, in a country like India, most importantly, what is required as in today to make these missions successful is an understanding of various components, segregating them, taking the best practices, not doing things which you are not supposed to do. Now suppose you say tomorrow to NCERT, NCERT, please go ahead and develop content for us. NCERT is not supposed to develop content for you. NCERT is supposed to give you assistance in making a world-facing curriculum, to making a global citizen. Today, if we are talking about this Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, at the same time, at the COPSE level, we are talking about similarity in curriculum for maths and science. So are these two things supposed to match right from the beginning, or it could happen 20 years down the line? So my request as on today is that there is content which is available, there are learning management systems which are available. Let us not go ahead and rediscover them. People come back and ask me a question. Your content is very expensive. In one of our stalls, we just launched something on technical education yesterday. I go to an engineering college and I say I would charge you 5 lakhs of rupees for 2,000 hours of content. Very expensive. But if you look at it in realistic way, it is the cost of having a faculty. A professor today will cost you 50,000 rupees. So if you are getting access to that content at that price, maybe me, maybe somebody else, you need to understand what are you getting. You are getting 24/7, 365 days access to content and quality content. Now you say, no, I'm going to discover my own. There are universities which say we are going to make our own content. 2 years down the line with $2 million, you would have 50 to 60 PowerPoints being made available to you. So that is what we wish to do for a mission like this. Mr. Jinnah was just talking about one of the main things, that when you are talking about contents, you talk about learning objects. I would put it like this, that when are the private companies invited as on today to even show learning objects? One private company, two private companies coming, getting access is not going to solve the problem. Indian marketplace is huge. Opportunity is available for everyone. But till the time a policy decision is taken at a central level, it will not help. Our partners do some of the largest Train 10 ICT interventions in USA, a company called Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. Every state in US come out with their own curriculum. And very recently, the President of the United States said, look, we want excellence in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. So if you are going to use federal funds, then please go into a manner where every state would bring out the children with a similar standard. It is not education. Say, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan should not eventually benefit some of the CBSE schools because they are already there. The benchmark has to be bring other schools at the earliest at a level where you have the other government schools. So my friends, my worry, and I have been in eINDIA for the last 3 to 4 years, has been that still after 4 years of these conferences, the tendering process of the government, the understanding of the government, and understanding that content is going to play a major role, and content is something where public-private partnerships are required, is still not understood. So my request to Mr. Kuntia would be to take an initiative to form a task force and to give an actual, I would say, shape to these PPP models. Thank you.